this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All council members are present. Thank you. And we also have an amended agenda that was presented this evening. A couple quick additions to the agenda is under action item 7M. We have a couple resignations on the fire department that we have to approve. Any other changes to the agenda?
Got an updated claims list, which is the 10A.
Okay, we'll note that as well. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. This time we have our December 3rd minutes. Is there any changes, corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Warren, seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. We have no public open forums this evening, so we'll go right into, we have no public hearings this evening. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the council? This is our open forum. Anybody wish to address the council? Seeing none, we'll go right to reports and presentations then. Brian, our police department monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for November 2014. Some of the numbers we had was pretty quiet, though. We had 11 alarm calls, 20 assists for other agencies. We had 5 juvenile problem calls, 21 matter of information calls, 21 medicals, 8 suspicious calls, 7 thefts, and we had 242 verbal warnings. We had 7 welfare checks for a total activity report of 524. So compared that to last month, we're down 53 calls, up 38 on warnings, and down total of 15. And compared to 2013, we're down 18 calls, up 95 warnings, and up 77 calls. So pretty comparable, I guess, for the last month and years. Otherwise, I have nothing much else for November.
How's the training going with the dog?
Joe is in his second week of training with the dog. He's finding out it's a pretty tense workout. A lot that the dog knows what he's doing, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So, so to get him to correlate and work together takes quite a lot of handling. And the instructor was telling him it takes like 2 to 3 years before you really get where you're in tune to each other. So he's finding it's quite a training to get lined up with the dog.
When does he train with the dog?
He has been random hours.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the 2 weeks he's really been shuffled around with random times. It's where this instructor can get buildings that they can go into, do searches and to work with the dog. So it's pretty random. So it's really being tossed around with hours. So.
And he's still having time to fill his shifts and for his family at the same time?
Well, yeah, we've covered his shifts, so that's all worked out pretty well. So yep.
Good. Any other questions?
He's, Officer Jensen's rather young, isn't he?
Yes.
That's good, because
Yeah.
I know you can't teach an old dog.
I knew that was
I didn't know how it was with police.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Keith.
'tis the season.
We'll move on to the Planning Commission report. Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the Planning Commission report, our agenda. We did not have any public hearings, but we will be having a public hearing on January 13th. I believe that's the second Tuesday in January. And we'll be looking at amending the sign ordinance at that time. And then in the packet, you also have a copy of the building reports and the monthly summary and kind of the year-end date total, but that would just be till November, of the like $5.8 million of building value that we have done this year in building permits. And that's just commercial, industrial, just construction.
Any questions? Just for kind of, for information for the public, we've actually, in 2011, we had a total of 316 building permits. In 2012, we had 652.
There was a storm, remember the storms?
Right, keep in mind that was a lot of remodel from the storm. 2013, we had 270. In 2014, through November, as Sarah noted, we have 133. So down a little bit, but the overall value, obviously it's based on value of the construction of about 5.8 million. So there's been a lot of investment made in the community.
Which is good.
Any other comments or questions? No. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Park Board report, Vicki.
Okay, the Park Board met on Tuesday, December 9th for their final meeting of the year. They took action on 3 items that are on the agenda for this evening. They're recommending changes to the fee schedule for the campground. They're recommending hiring Harold and Patricia Reed as campground attendants for 2015. And they're recommending that the city proceed with awarding the bid for the splash pad. So all 3 of those are action items later on the agenda.
Any questions in regards to the Park Board? Park members want to add anything else?
Nope, pretty self-explanatory.
All right. Thank you, Vicki. Well, then we'll go right into our action items. Action item 7A, approve resolution 2014-96, awarding the 2015-16 fuel vehicle wash contract. Vicki?
As you recall, at the 2 meetings ago, the City Council approved us going out for a 2-year bid solicitation for purchasing of fuel. We received 2 bids back, one from Holiday Station Stores and one from Gas Mart. As you can see, Holiday Station Stores is giving us a 5% or a 5-cent discount per gallon of both unleaded and diesel, and Gas Mart is 4 cents. Now, as the car washes, Holiday Station Stores is giving us 10 free per month, where Gas Mart has police unlimited at $1 per month, plus all other city vehicles, they give 25 free washes per month. So the car washes, they vary a bit, but the discount on the fuel is 5 cents and 4 cents respectively.
And just for clarification, it's $1 per wash, not per month.
Oh, $1 per wash, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, a month would be good.
Any questions? Again, this is consistent with every meeting in December that we talk about the fuel bid. A lot of times we've gone back and forth about car wash, not car wash, and many a times we take the lowest bid that's offered. Is Gas Mart open 24 hours?
No, they close at 10, and I believe they open at either 5 or 6 in the morning. And like the thing about the car wash is we've usually kind of used that as a tiebreaker, is how we've kind of handled
Correct.
the car washes in the past.
Okay.
The pumps are available 24, aren't they?
The pumps are available with a credit card.
And so they wouldn't be able to access the pumps once they're closed?
We would have to issue additional credit cards to each vehicle.
Okay.
But then if you use credit card, you don't get the discount.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think you get the discount then, so.
Because, I mean, the pumps, when it processes right through the system, you have to go in the store for them to process the discount.
Right. Any other questions?
With the change of Holiday Station on the ownership, is that still going to be an honored?
This is the new owner,
This is?
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve resolution 2014-96, awarding the 2015 fuel and vehicle wash bid to Holiday Superstation with the 5-cent discount and car washes as noted?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Warren, seconded by Mike. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on to action item 7B, approve resolution 2014-97, awarding the refuse collection contract.
As with the fuel, we also went out and solicited quotes for the refuse for the year, and this is for the city buildings and the city parks, et cetera, and that is for both recycling and garbage. And we did receive 3 bids, and after we went back through them all, we discovered the third one from West Central did not include recycling, so we contacted them, got the recycling added, and that's why they have 2 numbers. Both Waste Management and Becker's did include the recycling bid. So it's the second bid for West Central that would be a comparable bid. And because of looking at that, then that brings Becker City Sanitation down to the lowest annual, which is $15,113. The second lowest is Waste Management at $15,243. And then West Central would be the third at $16,203. So we do have Resolution 2014-97 in there accepting the bid for refuse collection, and we recommend Becker's at the lowest as the lowest responsible bidder.
Thank you, Vicki. As Vicki stated, we again do this annually, and I will just note that those 2 lowest bids were within $120 of one another. So it's good to see they're very comparable. And it's great to see that the local bidder and local company, Becker City Sanitation, is actually a tad bit less, which makes it easier for our jobs up here to appoint to the lowest bidder. And so with that, is there a motion to approve 2014-97 resolution accepting the bid for the 2015 refuge collection services to Becker City Sanitation for $15,113 annually?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keith, seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion?
Just one clarification, this is for 2015 and 2016. We went 2
It's a
years.
2-year.
It's 2 years, you're correct.
So-
Yep,
You had just stated 2015, so I just wanted to make sure that
thank you.
we understood what the motion was.
Yep, so it's 2015 and 16.
Right.
Any other clarification, discussion? I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Moving on to C, approve the 2015 board and commission appointments. You want me to go?
Go ahead if you
Go
want
ahead
to.
and go right into it. All right. Again, the second meeting in December, we make our board and commission appointments, the council does, and we have several appointments to make this evening, and I'm going to go through each one of them. And in the respect of the Public Utilities Commission, which we actually had 3 people apply for those 2 positions, I'm going to leave that one to the end because we're going to do that one separate. All the other appointments have either not anybody that applied or the proper amount, okay? Just so you guys understand. So with that, we had the Park Board. We have 3 positions to be appointed for a 2-year term. Again, according to City Code Section 3721, the Park Board shall consist of 5 members appointed by the council for 2-year terms. The terms of Weston Wander, Matt Wessel, and Amy Trisco expire on December 31st, and we've received nominations from Matt Wessel, Amy Trisco, and Mark Magnuson. So with that, we did not get a appointment from Weston Wander, as he believe he has applied for this term. So with that, I am recommending to the council that we appoint the 3 that have applied for the 3 open positions. Move right in then to the Planning Commission. We have 1 position to be appointed for a 3-year term and 1 position for a 2-year term. I won't read all the language in here, but everybody has seen their packet. So with that, we had 2 people apply. Diane Kelly, who has a 3-year term, and Marty Sunderman for a 1-year term. We also, again, we're going to skip over number 3 and go to 4 to the Senior Center Board. We have 4 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term, and unfortunately, we've had nobody apply. So for anybody that's interested in the Senior Center Board, please stop down and talk with Vicki and the staff to fill out a application. We have a Convention and Visitors Bureau, 3 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. We had 3 people apply, Sarah Weber, Pam Durbin, and Andrea Kerfelt. And I'm recommending that we appoint those 3 to the 3 open positions. We have an Airport Commission. We have 1 position to be appointed for a 3-year term, and we did not have anybody apply, so again, we have that position open. So I would ask anybody that's interested in the Airport Commission to also stop down and fill out the necessary paperwork. The Centricare Sauk Center Board, we have 1 position to be recommended for a 3-year term. Currently, that term is held by Joe Uppes, and Joe Uppes has reapplied for his term. So I make a recommendation that we appoint Joe to the Centricare Sauk Center Board. Hearing that, is there a motion to approve my recommendations with the exception of the public utilities, which we will make in a second motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any questions or discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. We do have a Public Utilities Commission. We have 2 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. Current board members Ted Spanier and Mike Bick will expire on December 31st of 2014. And we, again, had 3 people apply for those 2 positions, Ted Spanier, Mike Bick, and Diane Kelly. After consideration and review of the applicants, I make a recommendation that we reappoint Ted Spanier and Mike Bick to the Sauk Center Public Utilities Commission. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Vicki, I kind of whipped right through that. Do we have any questions for clarification? Okay. All right, we'll move on then to action 7D, approve resolution 2014-98, establishing the 2015 administrative fee schedule.
Administrative fees, and this is something we typically adopt the second week of December, or the second meeting of December for the following year. We have to adopt it in 3 parts because the law requires you to have separate resolutions and an ordinance for different kind of fees. So these next 3 actions are all similar. The first one is for, it's more like user fees, like park rental, public works fees, etc. There, if you have a copy of the administrative fees, they've been forwarded to the various department heads and boards for review. And the only change that is recommended is the campground, and the park board has recommended that the tent site and be the same as the trailer site. I mean, the site is the same. We still have the primitive campsites that will not change, but they're recommending that the site rental be $30 a day. Before it was 20 for tent and 30 for a trailer or a camper. Now it's just 30 regardless of what you have. And the second part of that is they're recommending that the weekly rate be amended to $175. It's 30 for one day or $175 for the whole week. And then the other recommendation on the administrative fees is the CPR fees for the campground. We're actually just removing a couple fees, which is the healthcare refresher and layperson refresher, and they just go right to its initial or refresher because it's kind of the same class, so it's just going to be the same price. So they just eliminated 2 of the different categories of fees. And those are the only changes that have been recommended to the fee schedule for 2015.
All right. Any questions? I just noticed in the campground, as you just stated, the changes going from 15 a day to 30 a day and 82 to 175. That's double. Is that in the,
No, it's 20 a day. The part that you're reading is the after Labor Day rate. That's not
Yep.
changing. What's changing is the regular daily
The line
rate
above
going
it.
from 20
I'm sorry.
to
All right.
30.
When did we do was it 2011 we did the last rate increase?
2000, yes.
Okay. And that's when we doubled the rate. How has that been accepted?
Well, what do you mean we doubled the rate?
Well, we obviously went at one point from $15 a day to 30.
No, the 15 is
That's
just the after Labor Day rate, so
I
we haven't
realize
changed
that.
that for some time.
I realize
We
that.
went from $27.50 to $30 on the motorhomes in 2013, and that was, and then we went from 15 to 20 for the tents. That was in 2011. It doesn't seem to make a difference. I mean, if they're coming to stay,
Okay.
the $5 didn't make a difference.
So the rate increase has not impacted our campground.
No, it hasn't. Not that we can see.
Okay. Any other questions?
One other comment. At the beginning of this, you have little administrative section. Interest on receivables over 30 days, 1%. I know we discussed bringing that up to 1.5%, which seems to be really standard every place.
All right.
Following it, it's right at the beginning of your list there.
And we certainly can do that, and the council can do
I
that
think-
right now. I know you had brought it up and you
Yep.
recommended it, and I apologize for not getting that on there. That's something that the city council as a whole certainly has the authority to change. And, if we do that on the first of the year, that'll work seamlessly with our accounting system.
So you're talking 1.5%?
1.5%, yeah.
Any other
Okay.
changes or questions?
Just running this past the council right now. If you look on the second page of the administrative fees, if you look at the equipment charges,
Yep.
basically, in my mind, everything on that whole list except for traffic control signs, the barricades, the portable no parking signs, anything to do with traffic cones, everything else, as far as I'm concerned, can be eliminated as far as rental. I don't know how often we rent a pickup with someone to drive them around with it for $55.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Really, those fees are not for us to hire out to the public. Those fees we have to have in our fee schedule if we ever have a situation such as FEMA, when we need to get reimbursed for our costs.
Okay.
It's like when we had the storm, we figured out how many hours and we got reimbursed at that rate.
Okay.
If we wouldn't have had it in our fee schedule, then we would have defaulted to their rate.
Okay,
So,
all right,
that's
that
what those are
explains
for.
that. All
Those
right,
fees need to stay.
right, okay. That's
Any other questions?
good explanation.
Hearing none, we have a proposal to approve Resolution 2014-98, establishing the 2015 administrative fee schedule with the changes in yellow and the additional change of changing the interest rate of receivables over 30 days from 1% to 1.5%. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion by Dave and second by Mike. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 2014-99, establishing the 2015 schedule of penalties.
This administrative schedule of penalties is the second part of the fee adoption schedule. Administrative penalties include things such as alcohol violations, violations of the cigarette license, violations of a zoning permit, animal impounding, some traffic violations like the no parking, snowmobiles, that type of thing, and then open burning, those kinds of violations that are violations of our city code. So that's what this is a violations of our city code. And we have no recommended changes to that, so we would simply be reaffirming last year's schedule of administrative penalties by Resolution 2014-99.
Any questions of staff? One of the questions I asked Vicki today is did we look at it? Because there was no changes. And of course we did, and that's probably a silly question, but I feel there's some some fees in here that haven't been adjusted since 2006, and maybe it's warranted.
The building code violation, the permit violations one, that's one I thought we had talked about changing.
They had the $100 a day for the building permit violation.
Yeah,
We've had that for some time, and then in 2013, last year, was when we did the lack of permit and the failure to file an amended plan.
yeah.
Yeah,
that-
we did that last time around.
It was.
Yeah.
I knew we'd touched, but where is that on here?
It's at the bottom.
It would
it's
be
kinda
right in the
cut
middle
off.
of the first page there. You see, we last changed on 12/18 of 13.
Vicki, it is kind of cut off at the bottom for us,
Oh, I don't
so
Yep, I see that.
what is the last, what does that actually read?
Greater, the word, it's
Whichever is
$100 a day, 2 times the building permit fee or $100, whichever is greater.
Gotcha, all right.
All right,
And again,
same
that was
for the
done
other
on
one, all right.
December 18th of 2013, a year ago tomorrow. Any other questions?
I guess I got a couple questions, and I don't know if Brian wants to come up to answer these or not. If you could, please. Basically, just an enforcement type question. On the animal offenses, we got $50 fine for dog barking. Are we actually ticketing the people that got dogs barking, or, because we had three of them in your report earlier. I was just wondering, are we actually fining them, or are we just telling them to shut it up?
Usually I try to be nice to people and give them a chance to take control of their dog.
And that
Fine,
we,
if we get, a few complaints in a row, then we start ticketing.
Okay.
So I say generally, we usually try to give verbal warnings on them.
okay,
And that's been our practice.
okay.
So,
Then the other thing is, what constitutes a motorized golf cart violation? Because I know in the summertime, there's getting to be a lot more golf carts running up and down the streets here. So,
we've been pretty lenient on that too, and that we work out with the city offices where they have to come in, I believe, you have to fill out do they still fill out a thing for that? Yeah,
a permit?
permit, yeah.
Okay.
So, so if they have the permit, unless I'm getting a complaint, I guess we don't particularly look to go after them unless they're doing something that's really, with pedestrians or
Okay.
in traffic or something, I guess. We don't look that much to enforce it, to be honest with you.
Basically, they got to have a legal driver's license to be driving it on the street then, or not?
Yep, you have to have a license, yep.
Okay,
correct.
all right. All right, that's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Let me just comment, Brian, I know you guys do a great job out there, especially when you and I have talked about the numbers over the years, so, the things that you are working with the customers and not giving the tickets on, I'm thankful for, so thank you. I know, dog barkings and the, golf cart things, are almost, they're decisions that you have to make at the time.
Right.
Whether or not and how they're enforced, and I think our officers do a great job of making the good sound judgment based on what the case is at the time, so those are very good points, Warren, thank you. Hearing that, is there any other questions? Or is there a motion to approve ordinance 2014-99, establishing the 2015 schedule fee for the penalties as presented?
So move.
Motion by Warren, is there a second?
Second.
Everybody.
Everybody said,
I'll say Dave.
there you go.
Motion by Warren and seconded by Dave. Any further discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, against. Thank you. Okay, moving on to approve ordinance 752, establishing the 2015 fee schedule for license and permits.
This is the third part of the update for the license permits and service fees, and this would be for like the actual liquor license, the actual building permit, things like garbage hauling licenses and pawnbroker licenses. So licenses themselves and development-related permits. The only change that's recommended to that fee schedule this year is for new zoning permits, which is like a garden shed, a fence, demolition goes from $10 to $25, and then landscaping and grading under 5 acres goes from $10 to $25. So those are the only recommended changes for next year for the license permits and service fees. And this actually is adopted by an ordinance versus a resolution.
Any questions? Again, as Vicky stated, this is adopted by an ordinance rather than a resolution. So is there a motion to approve ordinance 752, establishing the 2015 fee schedule for license and permits as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on to G, approve ordinance 753. Authorize,
Go ahead.
authorizing the summary publication of ordinance 752.
Okay. As you know, whenever we adopt an ordinance and we have a subsequent ordinance authorizing us to just do a summary publication rather than publishing the entire prior ordinance. So that's what ordinance 753 does, is it authorizes summary publication of the previous adopted ordinance 752, which summarizes and reaffirms the fees for licenses, permits, and provides for subsequent review, modification, amendment. I guess that's the entire title of it. So we're asking for approving of ordinance 753.
All right, as Vicky stated, we do this annually as well in order to summarize basically what we just approved. And if there's more detail that's needed, anybody's welcome to come in and get it. But is there a motion to approve ordinance 753, authorizing the summary publication of ordinance 752 as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. All right, moving on to H, approve resolution 2014-100, approving the annual fund accounting transfers.
And every year at the year end, the city council takes action to move money into sinking funds, take money out of sinking funds that they may have expended. This is where throughout the year, as you've discussed moving funds for specific purpose, this is kind of like the catch-all reaffirmation resolution that kind of lists everything that's getting moved around, whether it's been put in sinking fund, allocated to projects, transferred to debt service, et cetera. And I do have them each bulleted, explaining what each one of them is, and I can go through each one of them individually if you like, but it's kind of laid out there fairly clear. But if you have any questions on any of them, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Otherwise, I think just for the record, Vicki, I will go through them and list them out for the general public,
Okay.
if you don't mind. As Vicki stated, this is our opportunity to transfer funds around that either hasn't been spent or was to be put into a specific fund and now needs to be transferred so that we can move into the 2015 year. Total dollars for all of these transfers, just so you're aware, and I'll bring this back up at the end, is $781,875.69. So, to start with, Fund 100 comp plan to the 101 sinking fund. For future plan, $10,000. Fund 100 Public Works to 101 sinking fund. 2019 plow truck of $35,000. Fund 100 campground to the 101 sinking fund. Storm shelter of $20,000. And what I'm mentioning in the back side is what these allocated dollars are actually to be used for.
Right.
Potentially. Fund 100 campground to 405 MPP project, which is a splash pad of $25,000. Fund 100 parks to the 101 sinking fund. 2015 mower of $20,000. Fund 100 designated to the 405 multi-purpose park project splash pad, $182,830. Fund 101 sinking fund to the 405 multi-purpose park project shelter of $90,000. Fund 101 sinking fund to the 100 Public Works 2014 chipper of $25,000. And again, Fund 101 sinking fund to 100 parks for the 2014 quota of $25,000. Fund 225 fire to 328 debt service for fire hall share of payment, $65,1650. Fund 228 park dedication to Fund 405 multi-purpose park project sprinkler, $15,750. Again, Fund 228 park dedication to Fund 405 multi-purpose park project for the trail of $13,750. Fund 230 airport to 331 debt service, which is our final payment, $113,657.50. Fund 230 airport to the 409 master plan, $1,500. Fund 230 airport to the 413 fund beacon, $13,500. Fund 255 TIF 1 through 5 into the 100 general fund to close out this fund of $651.69. And Fund 280 storm utility to 331 debt service, $125,220. Vicki, do you have anything to add on these fund transfers?
No.
Hearing that, is there any questions of staff or council? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2014-100 authorizing the interfund transfers as presented? So moved. Motion by Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. And for those school kids that are here, I'll give you a copy of all of that I just read, so you don't have to try to write it. Okay, moving on to approve designation of annual final fund.
And this is, it kind of goes along with the transfers you just did. It's just that you designate and allocate parts of the fund balance to specific activities for future uses. At the beginning of the year, the general fund had $452,540.02 in designated funds, not including the hospital, and all those funds are designated, while the special revenue funds had $141,788 for a total of $594,328.02. We did make changes just prior to this with transferring money around from sinking funds to the general fund, and then back the other way from the general to the sinking, and then also then for some project funds, and designating existing dollars for project funds. So we had a total of transfer over, we added 235 and we used 329, so it just goes back and forth. But if you can see on page 48, it's more explanatory. You can see where we had money designated for specific projects. So what this adoption does is just kind of shows you in a format that you can see exactly how much money is left in each of those funds, which includes interest at the end of each year. So we're just asking you to affirm that designated fund balance by action, and it does not require a resolution. You're just kind of approving that designation. So we move the money in there, now you're designating what it's going to be used for.
Any questions? As Vicki stated, we kind of went over these just in our last action item. We talked about where the allocations and the transfers will be. So with that, I'll call for a motion to approve the designation of funds as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Warren, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call a motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor. Okay, moving on to J, approve resolution 2014-101, awarding bid for splash pad. Vicki?
On October 15th, the City Council authorized the advertisement of bids for the construction of the splash pad. We did open bids on December 9th. We had 3 bidders that were working on the proposal, which is an all-inclusive bid from design through the startup and the training of staff. 2 of the bidders working on the proposal declined to submit a bid. They did not want to be the general contractor. They were interested in selling the play features, and they were trying to get like the concrete contractor to be the general, and then they would just sell them the equipment. In the end, they were unsuccessful in doing that, and so they declined to bid. The third bidder is Splash Pad Design and Installation Firm. They bid the project from design through training of staff and on the operation of the pad. The total package came in at $220,000. The committee had initially estimated $200,000, which was 2 years ago, although we had added some features to it during our final design, so we can remove those if we need to. The city engineer then reviewed this, had his staff review it to assist us to be sure that it'll meet the expectations of the committee and the board. But because designing of the pad is part of the bid, we would like to add some conditions that we want to make sure are included in that design. And I do have if you do have the maps and everything, if you have any questions of what the design is going to look like or what it's going to look like, we can talk about that. But we want to make sure in the conditions that the design will include the final site plan and the plumbing plan that needs to be submitted to the state, that it'll meet Minnesota Department of Health requirements, that we can include sign off by an engineer. We do want to make sure that it has a mold-resistant finish, that if the storage tank size needs to be modified, if required to meet the Department of Health standards, that will be done, and that the filter will meet the turnover rates according to Department of Health. So Minnesota Department of Health is pretty strict on these things, and we just want to call those out and make sure that the ultimate design that comes in is going to meet those requirements. We do want some easy winterization access. As you can see, they install all over the country, and this is Minnesota, so we want to make sure we have easy winterization. And also, the public utility has requested that we design it so we can have easy access to visually inspect the rain diverter, to make sure that whenever the system is not working, that water won't go into that system. And we also are looking at separation of the chemical and feed equipment from the other equipment, and also having automated controllers for adding those chemicals. So I do have those listed out, so you don't have to repeat them unless you choose to. But these are the things that after the engineer looked at them, thought that we should make sure that those get included in the design. And of course, we'll have periodic approvals as we go along. The first thing would be they would get the design and then come back to the park board and everything, and they'd look, yes, this is what we expected, this is what we need to have, and then we'll go forward from there. So it'll be a multi-step process. But the park board did meet and they discussed it, and they feel that we should go ahead with awarding the bid to Splash Zone Inc. according to the design that we had. And then the park board did not have these conditions because the engineer's firm was still reviewing them at that time, but I would like to ask that they be added at this time as well.
Any questions, staff?
I was just wondering, was there any checking of their past projects?
I did call several of the past projects, the ones especially that were municipal, and I received comments like, yeah, we used them, yeah, it's still working. I didn't receive anything negative. I didn't receive anything glowing positive. I mean, I think everybody is so careful about giving recommendations anymore that, and then on the other hand, people give you recommendations of people they had positive working relationships with. So although I did call them, I don't think it made me go one way or another.
Thank you.
But you didn't hear that I would never use them, so that's good.
No, I didn't hear that either.
Are they still in business?
Any other questions, staff? Vicki, I know you went through all of the conditions, but did you have, you and I talked about this earlier today, talked about the one condition that required the final design to be approved and by our city engineer. Did you have any additional discussion on that?
We did talk a little bit, and we will have the engineer involved in the review of the plans to make sure that everything's in there, and we can add that as a condition that we would, I guess I neglected to add that on there, but that would be part of our normal process, is to have him review each component to make sure it meets Minnesota standards.
As Vicki stated earlier, when she went through kind of her overview was this, although we have, I think, a very good plan based on the design here, the final engineered design by our city engineer is yet to be done, because part of the bid is putting together the plan, so it's really quite difficult. So I know Vicki noted a number of conditions, and I would ask that the council consider adding a final approval by a city engineer along with those conditions, just so that we have everybody on board before any dollars are spent or the project is complete. Anybody have any other questions? You know, this project has been a project in the works for a long time. Our multi-purpose park is coming together. We've done a number of things out there in 2014, shelter, walking path, sprinklers. And now I think the final and the biggest attraction, which is what it was designed around, is the splash pad. So I think our camp people have been very excited for this time to come. So I'm pretty excited to see it get completed. And we have allocated and moved dollars around internally to offset the cost. So from that perspective, I think we have our bases covered. If there's no other questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2014-101 awarding the bid to Splash Zone Incorporated for splash pad with the conditions as presented?
So moved.
Got a motion by Warren, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. Thank you. Okay, moving on to K, approve seasonal appointment, campground attendance. Vicki?
The Park Board, at its December 9th meeting, recommends that the city offer the position of campground attendant for the 2015 season to Harold and Patricia Reed at $9,000 for the season, of course, plus their campsite. Over the past years, while the Reeds were the attendants, the city has received many compliments on the operation of the campground directly related to the oversight by the Reeds. And because of that, the Park Board is recommending we appoint Harold and Patricia Reed as campground attendants for 2015 at $9,000.
Same rate as last year?
It was $8,500 last year.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing that and hearing the recommendation of the campground staff, is there a motion to appoint Harold and Patricia Reed as campground attendants for the 2015 year at $9,000 for the season?
Oh, that motion.
Motion by Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Dave, second. Discussion? Call the motion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. Moving on to L, approve resolution 2014-104, approving a lot split. Vicki?
As part of the approved purchase of a portion of the racetrack property south of the freeway, the city council needs to grant formal approval of the lot split to allow for the recording of the deed. Then the recording of that deed will have to follow the final stamp of approval from the state for it to be annexed into the city. But this is the last meeting of the year, so I wanted to get this on there. If you would refer to the certificate of survey that I gave you tonight, I had the aerial photo earlier. We had agreed to purchase 1/2 of the property, which is like 19 acres. And the survey came in, and it's a little light on the city side and a little heavy on the other side of how the surveyor came back with it. And I talked to the Fellings, and he goes, that's not exactly where he asked him to put it, but that's where it is right now. So the city council, in approving the split, you can approve it here or request that it be moved over to be exactly half of the property. The other alternative is leave the survey stand, and we would negotiate a pro rata share of dollars at closing. So we've got 2 ways to do it. I'm requesting tonight is the approval of the lot split. If you approve this, then you want me to do a pro rata share at closing of the purchase price, or do we want to move it over to exactly half, which is about, when you allow for the easement, about 3/4 of an acre difference of what we originally thought we were getting. So.
Thank you, Vicki. Vicki and I also had a chance to visit on this, and one of the thoughts that we had is we don't believe, although 3/4 of an acre based on this project is a significant amount of dollars. So we think, going through the process of redoing the survey doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. However, doing the allocation of a difference in the cost based on the difference in the acreage makes the best sense and the most efficient use of everybody's time. So if it's 3/4 of an acre, so if instead of it being potentially 20 and 20, and I'll just use those numbers. One will be 20.75 and 19.25 being the other. And we will modify that difference based on the actual cost on a per acre basis. And in this case, it'd be per square foot, since we're not actually talking full acres, the pro rata of the difference in cost and value.
So if we grant this lot split and can't come to an agreement on what the value is on the difference, then what happens?
We've agreed to the rate already.
Oh, that's been agreed to?
Yeah, that was when we made the acquisition. It was on a per acre basis. So you can tie it all the way down to per foot if you need to. Correct, Vicki?
Yes.
Any other questions? Anything for clarification? Dave, I see maybe a little question in you. Just some thoughts?
An agreement and it's different, yeah. I call that frustrating. It's not a lot different, but
Right.
I don't have a problem with the pro rata part. I'm not sure how much money we're even really talking here, but,
well, it was about 25,000 an acre, so
okay.
Can I explain just a little bit, because I don't want anybody to think that anything really intentional was done here, but when the surveyor originally took it, he took the city right away, excluded that out, and then he excluded out an easement on the west side. You see that north-south where it says easement 0.94 acres? So he excluded those out as two separate lots, and then the other two remaining lots were equal. So we're really gonna have 4 lots, and when they brought that to me, I said, 4 lots equals a plat. If you want a simple lot split, it's only gotta be 2. So then he left the north-south line in the same place, but both of those extra lots are actually on the west side, so they got included in that side, and that's how this came about. It wasn't any intent that we were gonna get less, it was just the way they platted, they did it, and they thought they were gonna be these different lots. And I said, no, that means a plat, and if you want a simple split, it's gotta be just 2. So that's how that came to be.
As Vicki stated, we know it wasn't initially, the intent wasn't to get anything that wasn't split equally. It was just in their mind, it felt that.
I know we're
down
talking
to,
about
so-
3 feet or something like that. It's
Yeah.
not much, so.
No, not when you look at the total location. So with that, and that clarity, thank you, Vicki. Appreciate that. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2014-104, approving the lot split as Vicki presented?
So move.
Motion by Warren, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Is there any discussion? Do you need any clarification?
It's just that it's a condition upon it being annexed into the city, because that final stamp hasn't come back.
Correct.
Okay. And then you'll be working with the pro rata? on
Yes.
that After, okay.
I'll be working with the closing company on that.
Okay.
Any other clarification? With that, we have a motion and a second. I'll call a motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Thank you. Moving on to our last action item, accept the resignation of the fire department. And
You want to read them, or do you want me to
sure,
read
I'll go
them?
through it. We have 2 firefighters that have retired. I know it says resigned, but I like to use the words retired because we have a combined years of service of 47 years between these 2. So Don John is resigning from the fire department. He's been on the department since July 7th, 1992, so he had 22 years. And Bill Berg also submitted his resignation from the fire department. Bill had been on the department since '89, so 25 years. So again, combined service of these 2 very, very, very good firemen was 47 years. It's a lot of experience that we're losing. The nice thing is we have 2 guys waiting in the wings to take over, and I believe are already starting to go through some training. So
And they'll be at the January appointment for.
that's correct. So that being said, I wish them all the best, and I thank them for all of their years of service. So Don John and Bill Berg they will be missed on the department. Is there a motion to accept the resignation from Don John and Bill Bird, as I just stated?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Warren. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Okay. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. So we're nearing the end of our meeting. We do have a consent agenda this evening, and we had an amended one that was in a handout this evening. So I'll go through the consent agenda. We had a total of schedule of claims for a total of unpaid claims of $230,626.68. Paid claims of $102,357.11 for a total of $332,983.79. We also had November checks. Check number 2349E to 2385E, as well as 035716 to 035831. We had 4 payroll transfers totaling $391,895.35. We also received a contribution from Walmart for $1,000 for our ambulance, so I want to thank Walmart for their contribution to the city and to our ambulance department. We also have a resolution 2014-103 accepting bids for excess vehicles and equipment. What we're selling is a 1996 Cadillac DeVille. The highest bidder was Bernie Auto Sales for $780. Vicki, I believe that's all we have on our consent agenda.
Yes.
Is there any questions in regards to the consent agenda as presented? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith and seconded by Mike. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. All right, that's the end of our consent agenda, and we have nothing else on our agenda, with one exception. I have a few comments I'd like to make. First of all, before I start, and as all of you know, this is my last meeting, so after 10 years of coming to City Hall and you guys having to put up with me and all the other council members, I got a few thank yous. And first of all, I want to thank my wife, Christy, and my son, Matthew, and my family who are here this evening. Secondly, I also want to thank the residents of Sauk Center. I've had a tremendous amount of support the last 10 years. And I tell Vicki this, and I've said it to many, it's kind of unique that most people that sit in this seat for 8 years only have to go through 2 elections, but it's kind of crazy and unique. I went through 3, only on my own doing. So I found that very enlightening to me that I had the support of the community to come back and finish out my second 4-year term. So I'm very thankful for that. And as I've said all along, I would put our staff of Vicki and Nikki and Sarah and Wendy and all of the other folks that are here every day working and making this place the best place and the best city anybody would want to live, up against any city. And I've had the privilege to travel not only across the state but additional states, and I've never worked with a better group of people, so thank you for all that you do. And not leaving out anybody, Brian and the police officers and their staff have been outstanding. John and the firemen and their group have been a blessing to the community, and our public works employees that come to work every day and maintain our roads and infrastructure, and our public utilities people who make sure we have electric and water and sewer and all the other needs that we need here to strive and grow as a city. I'm thankful. So that being said, I'm not going far. I won't be coming to this meeting, but I'll be going across town to school board meetings, and so I'm excited to move on to the next things. And as I told Vicki earlier, in the week, that if there's anything that I can be of assistance, don't hesitate to call, because I'm committed, I love the community, and I'm, again, very thankful. So with that, thank you, thank the council members, and thank all my past council members that I've had the privilege to work with. That being said, I've rambled on far long enough, so I will call for a motion to...
Wait a second.
Adjourn.
Wait a second.
We have our party planner here is going to be planning an open house, so when we can get that scheduled, Brad, we'd like to have an open house here at City Hall sometime. We'd like to do it before the end of the year if we can, just so, because a lot of members of the public have expressed the desire to come and wish you well, so.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So are you looking for a date tonight?
Well, if you had a date, that would be great. I mean, I kind of sprung it on you.
Well,
Otherwise, we can schedule it and get the word out.
why don't we look at our calendars and try and figure it out? I'm speechless. All right, we'll come up with a date.
That doesn't happen very often.
No. After 10 years, you're right, it doesn't. We'll come up with a date, and I'll get back to
Okay.
you, and I'll talk over with my family and see what our plans are over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Warren, seconded by Mike. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.